The views and opinions expressed during this program are not necessarily those of Overseas Radio Network, the Expat Broadcasting Group, the staff, management, or broadcast partners. All information provided is for educational purposes only. Before taking action, consult a licensed professional.
Welcome to Truth and Lies, where you will hear the real story about how to expatriate your assets before you expatriate yourself. And now, your host, international living, banking, and asset protection author and expert, David Finzer, the ultimate PT.
This is David Finzer, broadcasting from the Gibraltar of the Balkans, the historic city of Novi Sad along the banks of the beautiful Danube River here in Serbia. 14 years ago, when I left the United States permanently, everyone thought I was crazy. 14 months ago, when I moved to Serbia, everybody thought I was even crazier. Then I have 5 countries in between in which I've lived and worked. I'm going to try, during the next hour, to talk about my experiences and to a certain extent be the troublemaker, I suppose, because I'm going to talk about some of the bad guys to watch out for, some of the bad things that have happened to me, so that they don't happen to you. I try to learn from the mistakes of others, but somehow I always manage to just go one mistake farther than most of the rest of the people. Maybe I'm a little bit less risk averse or just dumber, I'm not sure. You can join our conversation at any time by calling toll-free in the U.S. and Canada at 1-855-655-2121 or via Skype at ORN Live. My job for the last 25 years has been working in asset protection. That started because I was very unhappy with my own personal circumstances. In the year 1990, I was discovered with a brain tumor. While I was in the hospital and recovering, a very unscrupulous attorney managed to steal my business out from under me, and I went from making $8,000 a month to bankruptcy. So I decided that perhaps I ought to look into asset protection. So I did. And I looked at all the traditional ways that people did it, and I decided I didn't really like any of them. I guess I'm a natural-born contrarian. I've often said that the only rules that I have ever seen that I didn't immediately want to subvert were the ones written on the tablets of stone with God's own fingers. So I spent 6 years, in fact, developing an asset protection structure that was based offshore and still, without having to rely on secrecy, would be completely and totally tax legal. And I can say that with confidence because I have been tested a few times by the United States government. It's amazing that with all the problems in the world, the United States government actually tries to get people to commit crimes. Before I left the United States, lived in St. Petersburg, Florida. And one day a guy came walking into my office and opened a briefcase, and he had $600,000 in it. And he said, "I need you to help me launder this." And I said, "I don't do that kind of thing." And he kept on talking and talking. I said, "Look, this is not what I do." He says, "Yeah, but we'll pay you well." I said, "Look, I will not do it. The most I will do is I will make a call or two, but I suggest you just take it to Antigua where they'll do that sort of thing." Because back in those days, the government of Leonard Byrd was very corrupt and it was a big money laundering center. So after making it very plain to him that I had not accepted him as a client and owed him no duty, I had my attorney call the FBI. And with their consent, they placed a tap on my phone. And the conversations went back and forth, and then all of a sudden, 3 weeks later, I found out that the FBI had been tapping the Customs Service, because since I was involved in the offshore industry, I must be essentially bad, and Customs tried to sting me. Well, they lost on that one. Then I was invited to assist in the defense of someone accused of tax evasion. Now, these people set up the stupidest offshore structure probably in the history of the universe. It was the old three-tier trust system where you had a domestic trust pass it off to a foreign trust that passed it off to another foreign trust. At the top, they had an illiterate fisherman from the Turks and Caicos Islands who was the trustee. And they sent $600,000 to that trust, which they wrote off from their business taxes for consulting. Now, since their business had nothing to do with fishing, tourism, of the Turks and Caicos Islands, I suppose the IRS found it a little hard to believe. In addition, they went so far as to put stupid things in the trust. She put her diamond bracelet in. They even put their monkey in the trust. I think the monkey was smarter than them. I'm not sure. But as part of the way the government works, they decided to attack me because I was in the business. So they thought, well, maybe they can get at the defendants by attacking me. So they asked the attorney with whom I was consulting, can we see the offshore structure that Finzer sets up? I said, sure. He said, sure. We gave it to them, and they looked at it. 2 or 3 weeks later, in the courthouse, our attorney saw the special prosecutor, and he said to her, well, what do you think of the structure? And she said, well, I don't like it one damn bit, but I can't find anything wrong with it. At which point my attorney said, will you give that to me in writing? And her response was, at best, one would say, unladylike. The third time, which is really one of the most interesting, this is after I had left the United States. In 1996, I was working from the island of Nevis, which has excellent LLC legislation, limited liability company legislation, and I got a call from a guy who purported to be an attorney for the SEC, saying he was investigating one of my clients, and he wanted my cooperation because the guy was engaging in scamming little old ladies. And my response was, well, first of all, I don't know who you are, but if you are who you say you are, then I certainly don't want to assist anyone in committing a crime. So if you will please send me a letter on your official letterhead, I will go to the government and I will ask them for a waiver so that I can cooperate with you. And if this guy's a crook, we'll catch him and put him in jail. Nothing happened. I heard nothing. Then, a few months later, I was federally indicted for all of the things that the client had done that I do nothing about. I'll tell you the end of the story when I come back after our commercials. But now we have to break for a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back, so don't go away. This is David Finzer for Truth and Lies Radio on the